Nittany Lions, number 7, which you're going to have to tell me how they go down to the AP Bowl. I have no idea. They take on number 3, Ohio State in the shoe, 12 Eastern, noontime Fox.
Yes. First of all, I hate that this game is on Fox. No offense to Gus Johnson and the other guy, but I wish Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit were calling this game on ESPN.
Joe Klatt, you have a name. It's Joe Klatt.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt, you are the B commentary team. Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler, you are the A team. And then, yeah. But anyway, so you look at Penn State. I think this is the year Penn State can actually go into Ohio State and get this win. Think about this. Their quarterback, Drew Aller, he's completed 118 of 181 passes for 1,250 yards, 0 interceptions, and 12 touchdowns. His completion percentage is 65.2%. Don't worry, I'm not going to read all my notes. Running back, Katron Allen has 78 carries for 375 yards. He averages 4.8 yards, and he has 3 touchdowns on the season. His other running back teammate, Nicholas Singleton, has 89 carries for 362 yards. He averages about 4 yards, and he has 6 touchdowns. And then you look at Keandre Lambert Smith. He has 31 receptions for 42 yards, averages about 13 yards, and he has 3 touchdowns. I could give you other names, but I just wanted to give you some of them. So Penn State has the weapons. I understand that Ohio State has Marvin Harrison Jr. They have Travion Harrison. They got the huge win on the road in Notre Dame. Penn State doesn't really have that signature win. I get it. But here's the thing. Do you really trust Kyle McCord? Because from what I've seen of him, I don't. And I'm not saying that even as a Penn State fan. I'm just saying that as a general college football fan. I haven't liked what I've seen from Kyle McCord. It seems like if you get to him in the pocket, kind of like what you were saying about Brock Purdy earlier, he gets very rattled. And I think Penn State has the defensive line to get to Kyle McCord and knock him off his spot. And I think Penn State is going to do it this season.
So I almost agree. I agree with 99.99999% of what you said until your very last words. I think if this game was in Penn State would win this game. I think the only advantage Ohio State has in this game is it is in Columbus. It is in the shoe. And they typically, no matter who their quarterback is, for some reason, they play very well against Penn State. And I do think there's a little bit of a coaching advantage here between Ryan Day, who I have not always loved. I think Ryan Day sometimes gets too cute. He gets too clever. He tries to put on a fireworks show instead of trying to win games. But James Franklin on the other side is a very good college football coach. He can get his guys motivated situationally. Penn State seems to always put up a good fight against Ohio State. And then there's just late situations late in the game where James Franklin doesn't know how to manage a clock. How many times in the last 10 years, I could count at least twice, maybe 3 times, Penn State had Ohio State won if James Franklin would literally just manage the clock and run the football instead of getting too cute and giving Ohio State chances. I don't know if I'm sure you do remember the game. 2017 at Saquon Barkley's last year at Penn State.
Yes, I do remember this game.
They're up more than double digits in the shoe. They blow that game. I don't want to jinx your team. Could I see a scenario like that repeating itself? I absolutely could. I think this game's going to come down to who runs the football the most, who possesses the ball, and who wins the line of scrimmage up front. I think that the fact that Penn State hasn't been tested yet Ohio State knows now because of that win against Notre Dame, they can win a more low scoring game. I think it's going to be like 24-21, something along those lines. I think it comes down to the very end. Ohio State gets a stop. With that being said, if there's a blowout scenario in this game, I am going to go bold and say if Penn State gets up on this game early, that's the key. I think if Penn State can run the football, they can drive it, they can possess it. If they go down and get 10, 14 points early, Ohio State will be in trouble. Ohio State has been a bad starting team. They played well against Purdue last week. Whoop-de-doo. They did not play well against Notre Dame. They got a lot of, speaking of lucky breaks, Ohio State should not even have won that game. They got a ton of breaks, and obviously Notre Dame putting only 10 people on the field the last two plays is part of that as well. So I think it's a very interesting game. And again, as we have talked about ad nauseum every week on this show, this is the last week that in college, this is the last year, that in college football we have a 4-team playoff. We already saw USC go down this week to Notre Dame. The loser of this game, with how good Michigan looks, and we both agree they're going to stop Michigan State this weekend. With how good Michigan looks, yes, Georgia may be vulnerable, but Oregon and Washington, I know you were watching that whole game. We both know how good they look. The loser of this game between Ohio State and Penn State, I think, is out of the college football national championship run.
Well, here's the thing. In the Big Ten, it's obviously a 3-team race. It's Ohio State, it's Penn State, and it's Michigan. If Penn State wants to have a legitimate chance of getting to the college football playoff, they need to go 2-0 against Ohio State and Michigan. Obviously, Penn State is at Ohio State on Saturday, and then they'll host Michigan later in the season. So that's the thing. That's why Penn State has not been able to get over the hump since like 2016 when they won the Big Ten championship and got to the Rose Bowl where they narrowly lost to USC. It's because they haven't been able to beat both Ohio State and Michigan. It's kind of the same thing with all 3 teams. If Michigan wants to, stamp their ticket to the college football playoff, they've got to beat both Penn State and Ohio State. It's rinse and repeat for Ohio State. They need to beat both Penn State and Michigan because we know that whether it's Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, whoever comes out of the Big Ten West is just going to get stomped in the Big Ten championship.
They should, but I will say this about Iowa and Wisconsin. They always do play, at least Ohio State and Michigan, close, usually.
Well, Ohio State goes to Wisconsin next week, but Wisconsin will be without their starting quarterback, Tanner Mordecai.
That could be a potential trap game. Look out for that coming off the Penn State game.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but look out for that. Anyway, when it comes down to it, Josh, we got about 2 minutes left in this segment, so I need your score prediction. Your Nittany Lions, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Well, obviously, I'm going with a Penn State win here. I'm not going to go against Penn State in this game. Absolutely not. I'm representing Penn State here. I do think this is going to be a close game. I think Penn State wins it by a touchdown, 27-21.
So you agree with me, because I think some people I saw have had it at like 34-31 in the 30s. I don't think it's a very high-scoring game. And I think that, again, the team with the better offensive and defensive line play will win the game. I think it comes down to if Penn State can run the football, possess, and force McCormick for Ohio State to pass, because I agree with you. Ohio State's never had a good quarterback school. Obviously, the Haskins, the Fields, the Strouds have come through and better the last few years. But I know they have some kids coming up next year. But this year, Ohio State, and this is the year for Penn State for me to beat Ohio State if they're going to do it.
For sure. Here's the thing, though, is Georgia, you were talking about this earlier, they're going to be facing a tough stretch now. Not even because of their schedule necessarily, but they lost arguably their best offensive player, Brock Bowers, due to tightrope surgery. So
yeah, I mean, we don't even know what the hell that is, and obviously
it's something for a high ankle sprain.
And okay, obviously what Oregon and Washington, that game on Saturday was just unbelievable. We'll see how it all turns out.